Utilize in News.
Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Youth Weekly, your favorite online TV series bringing to you highlights of events that made headlines in the news in the language and perspective of young people. My name is Helda Apollos.
And I am Faith Thomas. You are welcome. These are some of the news that made the headlines over the last week. Gay marriage law. Canada cancels Jonathan's visit. 7 suspected homosexuals stoned in Bauchi. Will make NNPC account for the missing $10.8 billion oil revenue. Okonjo-Iweala. 963.7 million naira subsidy fraud. EFCC claims marketer sourced foil from within Nigeria. Bank of Industry NYSC signed MOU on entrepreneurs skills for coppers. Rivers Varsity expels 588 students for poor performance. Saboteurs in PDP, Tuko tells Jonathan. Mwazu appeals to Jigawa governor to bring back G5 governors. Kenyan president's popularity swells on Facebook, chases Jonathan. In sports, Brazil 2014. Nigerian ambassadors assure Super Eagles of support. These were some of the issues that made headlines in the news last week. Join us in a moment for more on some of these issues. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Youth Weekly, Utilize in News.
We are part of the solution.
We bring you youth perspective on issues. Youths have a voice.
We have a story to tell.
Youth Weekly, Utilize in News.
You're welcome back on the show. This is still Youth Weekly on UTV Africa. Now, this is our discussion segment where we get to take on some of the issues that we have found of interest in the headlines this week. So, Helda, for you, what would you consider the most outstanding headline you'd like for us to talk about today?
Well, I find it really amazing how suddenly 10.8 billion naira just disappears without accountability.
It wakes up and walks out of the building by
I don't
itself.
understand. I can't wrap my mind around it, and I feel it is something that needs to be tackled immediately and to the latter, because this involves the welfare and the well-being of Nigerian citizens. I mean, 10.8 billion, not naira now, but dollars is actually something that can go a long way into development, and we are saying it actually brings to question the accountability of, NNPC in the first place. How did this money get missing in the first place? How did it go unaccounted for? I mean, what is the accounts department doing? What are you telling the Nigerian population? Are you saying we cannot depend on what happens to be the country's sole access of revenue?
Well, I'd say that that tells us the height of indiscipline and corruption in this country.
Sure.
I know the only explanation they've had for it so far is that it was said to have been spent on operational expenses. I do not really understand what that means.
Well, I'm sure Big Madam is actually giving them a tight leash to be able to account for how and what this money was actually spent for. But we cannot go too much into the details or the nitty-gritty of what is going on here because we have an interesting feature on this edition of Youth Weekly, and I'm sure that is a good news for our audience.
Yes, it's
as opposed to this very, very disturbing news.
Yeah.
We'll be featuring a very young emerging leader, someone wielding influence over 1.2 billion young people within his constituency across 53 countries. I'm sure you'd want to find out who. Find out when we return after this time.
Youth Weekly, Utilize in News.
We are part of the solution.
We bring you youth perspective on issues. Youths have a voice.
We have a story to tell.
Youth Weekly, Utilize in News.
Hello viewers and welcome back. This is the interview segment of the show today. And today in the studio we have a very, very, very notable personality here with us. He's the chairman of the Commonwealth Youth Council, and as you know, it's the largest diverse body of youths. It has about 1.2 billion members. He is in person of Mr. Ahmed. It's nice to have you. Welcome on the show. Yeah, Mr. Ahmed is an indigene of Katsina State and a graduate of Bayero University, and also holds a PhD in economics from the Newcastle University, UK. Could you tell us a bit about yourself, sir?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. Like you mentioned, Ahmed Adamu is my name.
Okay.
From Katsina, from Nigeria, and the chairperson of the Commonwealth Youth Council. And, I'm about to finish up with my PhD at Newcastle University. I did my master's degree still in the United Kingdom, and I did my bachelor's degree in Bayero University in Kano. And basically, this educational experience. I was also at the Nigerian Youth Parliament as the chief whip, and I represented Nigeria in the Commonwealth Youth Forum twice. One in Australia, and the recent one where we had our election as the first chairperson of the Commonwealth Youth Council.
Okay, it's very nice to have you today.
Thank you.
Let's talk a bit about the Commonwealth Youth Council. How did it come about?
Well, Commonwealth's values and commitments are equally tailored towards empowering young people.
Okay.
And in line with this commitment, the heads of governments of the Commonwealth nations are keen toward developing young people's potentials and uniting and giving a very powerful platform where young people will speak and share their grievances and complaints.
Okay.
And advocate for their own potentials and any sort of coming on board to discuss issues that relate to young people. This will be done through a particular platform. And the young people themselves are also concerned on having this kind of engaging platform where they can be fully represented in discussing issues that affect themselves within the Commonwealth nations.
Okay.
And before we used to have caucus members, but those caucus members were not effective toward representing the voice of young people in the Commonwealth issues. So the young people decided to come out with a new platform and transform the format structure to what we call now Commonwealth Youth Council.
Okay.
So the first election of the Commonwealth Youth Council was held in Hambantota, Sri Lanka, last November 2013. And that's where I emerged as the first chairperson of the Commonwealth Youth Council. So we have huge responsibility of setting a foundation and keeping to the expectations and the purpose of establishing the Commonwealth Youth Council and the official and recognized voice of young people in the Commonwealth.
Okay, that's very interesting. You know, you said something, you said it's a new platform, and then you've been privileged to be the first chairperson of that body. So what is your tenure about? What do you intend to, what are those things that affect young people that you intend to really drive during your time in office?
Being the first, like I mentioned, we have lots to do. First, because of the diversity in the Commonwealth.
Certainly.
Yeah, so we have to be mindful of addressing issues that affect young people and addressing peculiar issues in every Commonwealth nation.
Okay.
I am Nigerian. I will not be only talking about problems in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we may have youth violence, youth crisis, but we may not have it in the UK, we may not have it in Malta, we may not have it in Canada. So I, as a chair of the youth leaders in the Commonwealth, we have to know about what are the real youth issues in all these countries, what are the complaints, what are the voices that these young people want us to carry further. So it's a very peculiar task for us to identify what are those youth issues, covering all the continents, all the countries, all the 53 countries, all the 1.2 billion young people in the Commonwealth. So you can imagine the enormity of the task that lies ahead in terms of carrying everybody along and addressing the real issues. It's been very easy for Nigeria because I, as a leader of this great organization, I can easily, from my own experience, pinpoint and say these are the issues. And that could be very easily kick start in Nigeria. But we are now in position of identifying those issues, and that's why we are coming up with youth research, youth survey, that we look into all these peculiar problems, youth issues in all Commonwealth nations. And based on this, the recommendation of this research, we set priorities for every country. So basically our tenure is 2 years, and like I mentioned, we are the first set. We have to set the standard, put the necessary foundation.
That's very interesting and it sounds very huge, really. But in line with Nigeria now, by next year, 2015, there will be another electoral year. What are the efforts that you're making, or what are your plans to mainstreaming youth into the political space? Not just going out to vote, but in participating. What efforts?
Yeah, it's really a very interesting question and it's timely. Like I mentioned, I'm a Nigerian and I know more about what's happening in my country. And having this in mind, we've already identified what are the issues that young people face in terms of democratic and political participation in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And some of the things we advocate are youth engagement, public leadership.
Okay.
Not only that come and vote, and after voting, nothing. And when we say we want you to represent the youth voices, you are nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
When young people want to reach out to their leaders, the leaders are nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
So we want to put the young people in the position. They will be on the table to make decisions, to make policies. And that's what we want to encourage young people. And we've been talking about what the Constitution says about young people.
Yes.
Young people, the National Youth Policy said they are between the age of 18 and 35.
Yes.
And now you are restricting the young people from contesting in national positions because in none of the national positions, elected positions,
yes,
that allows young people between the age of 18 and 35 to
yes,
contest those positions.
That's true.
So how can we push for young people participation in leadership? While the Constitution of Nigeria says young people between the age of 18 and 35, they cannot stand for election, and yet they can vote. If they can vote for election, why can't they be voted for? So one of the things that we are calling for is to review this Constitution, allow young people. We have seen many young people voted into leadership positions and they're doing wonderfully well.
Yes.
The second side is how do we, at this level, make young people to be responsible and active participation, actively participate in the electoral process, political procedures. And how can we educate young people? Because young people need to be engaged and educated so that they will always be reminded that there is need for this peace. And we are now in the pre-election year. It's the best time to start engaging youth. And that's why the Commonwealth Youth Council is launching what we call the Youth Campaign Against Election Violence.
Okay.
And we are launching this campaign not only in Nigeria, equally in other Commonwealth nations where they have record of election violence.
Okay.
But we are doing the pilot campaign in Nigeria because of the imminent general elections in the country.
Yeah.
So we are launching the campaign on 30th of this month, January.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are inviting so many international dignitaries, national stakeholders to come in and launch this campaign. And this campaign will go down to grassroots levels, states, local levels, to educate young people and engage young people to be the frontiers, to be the to engage in advocacy, calling for young people to embrace peace. What are the best practices? If you didn't hear the favorable results at the end of the
what do you do?
election,
How do you deal with it?
How do you deal with it?
Now
what
for
are the
this
options?
event that you have on the 30th, is it open to the public? Can youth people be part of it? Can they attend?
Yes, it's for the young people.
Okay.
And everyone is invited.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. I wish we could talk about much more, but that's about the time that we have.
We are part of the solution.
We bring you youth perspective on issues. Youths have a voice.
We have a story to tell.
Youth Weekly, Euthanizing News.
Well, that's about all that we can take today on the program. It's been fun here, and I hope that you have had as much fun watching as well. So to find details about the Commonwealth event, please visit our Facebook page on www.facebook.com/UTV Africa. Until we see you again, take care. Bye-bye.